Hello everyone, I'm going to talk about the API design. API design is the API, what is API? API means the application program interface. So APIs enable two software components to communicate with each other using a set of definitions and protocols. It's kind of like we design a rule, and two different server, two different software components. They can based on the rule to communicate each other. They can speak the same language, then to communication. So this is the purpose about the API. That also can answer the question why we need it. We need same language, same rule to communicate. So we can see here like a client, right? It's where sending the requests to the servers and get all the events. And servers maybe will check in the database and then return the response, some information, and then return back to the clients. So how their communication is all based on the APIs. So for the APIs, we have very common thing like the REST is very common thing, which is called representation state transfer. And this is one is called GraphQL, is also kind of the API, and this is called the RPC, which is called remote procedure call. So let's talk about the REST first. So REST API is the very common one we've seen before, right? So it's we have the get, post, right? We have something here, and also means the REST API is also means like it is stateless. Single API not depend on the previous API. So current one not impact the previous calling. So this is the one of the REST API. So resource modeling, you can see response are just your current entities. For this one, you can see event. It's kind of like access to the resource. This is the actions. And for here, we just designed the API as the num. Am I pronounced right? Nullus, okay. So for here, this API means get all events. I see specific events based on this ID. Get specific here and get variable ticket for an event. Create this is post. Like based on the ID, based on this one, and go call this API to the backend to the server. Then you have to definition at the backend servers. And to create a new block for an event, and for here is blocking ID and get specific blocking. So when you design the RESTful API, we don't use the like creations, not for here. This is the verbs, and for here is more focused on the resource access. So resource access is no actions. So this is the RESTful modeling. So for this one, we have very HTTP methods. It's very common, right? We have the get, retrieve the data, post, create the data, put item. Sorry, this one. Idempotent update and replace, which means when the resource or something not exist, it will create it. If exists, it will just replace it, so it will not create a new one. For the patch, it's partial update. It's kind of you have a lot of database, right? You have the table, and just for example, you have the table here. Oh yeah, you have the table, and you have lots of information here already exists, right? It just updates specific part, not the whole table. But for the other part, it will update the whole thing again. So it is quite a difference from the patch. And delete is kind of like just like here, remove it, right? Remove it. Okay, what's the next? Next is called the input. inputs, we have the pass parameter, like when we get, right? It has events, and for here you can input your specific ID, like 123, specific which resource you are working with. Use this when required to identify the resource. And this ID, when you're sending the requests to the backend, it will analyze this ID, and based on this ID, the servers will use this ID to check the database to find something and then return back. And for here is kind of the second one is called query params. The question is get events. You can see you use the question here, which means to CT to checking this one. It's a kind of like option filter. When you're sending that, and it will help you to filter and return the result. And for this one is called the request body. When you post the event, you have title, description, location, data, and you don't need to send at the link here. You can, we have the body, and you can send it in the body, and then the backend servers will analyze body, have something, and then based on the link and the body information, it will return the response. Okay, so for the response here, we have the response, we have the two parts. One is called status code. And sometimes it's also, if the backend is will return something, it will return by the response body. Usually it's JSON. So we get some events right here. It will return a list of events. And for here is about the status code. And 200 is, which means, okay, you calling this is this API calling successfully. And for 201, it means successfully created. And 400 is bad requires. And 401, not authentications. And 404, not found. And 500, server error. So we have 2 and 4, 5 are usually enough. And why this is important? When the developer writing the pages, when you do some debug, sending the requests to checking the API, what's going on, it's very powerful to check, current here on the code, this is success, right? It's very great. And for example, like if we have the front end, right? This is front end. This is front end, sorry. This is front end. So we have the front end here. Why is this so big? Wait a second. For example, we have the front end here. Front end. We have the front end and sending to the backend. Okay. Sending to the backend. And the backend returns some specific API. If successfully, right, it means the backend is okay sometimes, and the front end is if current, like for example for the scenario, there's a bug, a ticket, you have to analyze this, and it's a front end, right? You need to analyze the problem is the front end or the backend. So for the front end, you send in the request to the backend and return the 200 successfully, which means the backend is okay. So sometimes the problems will be on the front end, which means the pager something is not work as the expected behavior. And sometimes the server's error is returned is like a 500, right? This API is fair, which means this API is fair. Sometimes these problems is often happens at the backend. So this is it's very useful when we debugging microservice system. So this is work here. Okay, so next one is called the GraphQL. It's created by the Facebook in the 2012 and open source in the 2015. So what kind of solution problems? It's based on the time we have so many microservices. So and different requires, right? We kind of like current events 1, 2, 3 is based on the service 1, and this one is tickets. Some information is based on the service 2. if we use the REST API, we need to call in kind of like a five REST API. So it's very a lot. And then for the GraphQL, just used one GraphQL, you can see here, query, right? Just the one single calling, it will get all the information. So that is the GraphQL for here. It's kind of like improve the performance in the specific way. So what is the remote procedure remote procedure call? Remote, where it is? It's called the remote procedure call. This one is it means the directly call the specific the functions. We don't use the like original. We have to use the call the API. We directly calling the we have writing the code, right? We have to write in the functions. We directly call that function. So this is very high efficient way to do this. So for here, you can see here we have the ticket survey, right? So directly call this get event, and then we get the response and to do some logic. So this one is high performers. Okay. So we have the, next step is let's talk about the common API patterns. So based on the API patterns, we have the first important thing is pagination. What is pagination? Is when you go to the database, right? You have the lot of table for here, and then you have a lot of table for here, but it's very huge, and you cannot show on the pages. You cannot show it in the pages just the very original showing the pages. We kind of like have page 1, page 2, page 3, and need the user to click it. So we need to use the API calling, right? For current here is offset is 20, which means we start from the 20 and plus the 10 and return back. So just which means we need to return the 21 to the 30 to show these pages. And for the next pages, we need to like 30 plus 10. So use this way to return some part of the page. And what is the cursor? So cursor means like cursor, we have the based on for the table here, right? We have the ID. We have some ID like 1, 2, 3. And for here is the index of this 1, 2, 3. So for current here, which means we call the backend, we start from the 1, 2, 3, and plus the 25 here, and return back. So this is the okay. So wait a second. This one should be the offset. Yeah, wait a second. Oh yeah. This is 1, 2, 3 plus the 25. So this is more like based on the database table order, then return back. So this is called cursor. And for here is need like you have to do some configuration. This is one for the like offset is 20, right? And you need to configure our current. You have to define something here. Page 1. You have to page 1 is equal to something like this one is called like page 2. You have to configure how many page one size. So we can treat it like, we better treat it like this one would be better to understand here. Like a page is page code page 2. So based on the page 2s, the backends were configuration. Oh, you were on the page 2, so it will do some calculations, right? So it's kind of like a 2 times 10, and the current here need to return like 20 to the previous is already searching like 20, and for now I need to return like 20 plus the 10 to return this page to the current here. So maybe the page is stuff from this is index about the page. So this is what the pagination here. Okay. So there's two very famous way to solve this problem. Oops. Let me clean it. Yeah. Oh. I think I cleaned too much. Oh my god. Let me do this. Okay. I think I needed to use some whiteboard. Yeah, let's go next. Which is about the security part. Security part is we have two options. We have multiple options. I just discussed about the role-based access control here. We can base on the current user, right? It has some like admit. Then we can base on this role. We can for the backend server they will do some filter to check. Oh, current role is what? If it's admin, I will give you the access to the resource or something. So this is one way to check the security. And also for the post API, we have used like which is called like JSON Web Token to encode the user data and permission directly into a sign token. And then based on the sign tokens, right? Every time user sending the post event, sending the API, it will include this token and send it to the backend to the servers. And servers will analyze this token to check the role, check the whether it's valid, whether express time, and then to decide whether allowed you to do something. And for here, another way is called session token. It's a random token which is used to find the user inform server side. So it's based on the session tokens, right? Current like session tokens is how many times? Like 30 minutes, and then you have to expire, then you have to log it again. So that is the session token happens here. Yeah, thank you.